Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Recato of Recato Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, and my humblest and deepest and sincerest congressional person who got caught with the stripper or whatever. Apologies for being late. I was, I was asleep. I was asleep. And yes, my hair is nuts, man. I can't tame it down. I can't tame it down. I wasn't trying to be asleep. I just was. Fix your hair. I can't fix it. It's stuck like this. It's amazing. Oh my goodness. So, anyway, that's where we are today. This is the product of doing way too many streams. But yeah, we had a show earlier today that was impromptu. We watched the Attorney General confirmation hearings. Man, look at that. Look at that poofed out hair. I might go fix it in just a second. We had the Attorney General confirmation hearings for Merrick Garland. We're so sorry you didn't get to be a Supreme Court justice. Please be Attorney General instead. That was there. And some drama happened during that. And that drama was that YouTube decided that that my stream shouldn't exist. So that was fun. When they took that down, they took the stream down and have lied and misrepresented me to all of you. I don't have a ton of updates to report, but we'll go through that in a little bit, and we'll talk about what happened and what's going on. Then after that, we came back, finished that stream, and then I went on Adamcast IRL, Adam Krigler's show. Krigler. I went on his show. We had a very fun show. Lots of laughs and giggles and all of the silly things. And that was good. And then let's see. So that went for a little while. I stopped briefly by Fireman Steve 73's show, which was great. He was doing some painting, a new hobby of his. He's fantastic over on Twitch. And then finally, I briefly popped on the Ralph Retort. And then I went upstairs after a whole day of streaming, and I laid down for a minute. And that was when this happened, where I fell asleep. And so I'm going to go fix my hair in just a second here. I'll go fix my hair in just a second here, and then we'll actually get on the show. But it's a little distracting to me to see my hair and not have it work out right. So there's that. Tonight we're covering a couple different topics. Angry Baneling, stop. I see you. Stop. I got it. Stop. Man. Chill out. We've got a couple different topics. We've got court packing. We are going to talk about an article on court packing, which is arguing for it. So that'll be fun. We've got my YouTube woes. We've got the whistleblower at Smith College. So this is someone who had to quit their job at a college because it was just so racist. I think this is a fun story, so we're going to cover that. And we've got Disney Plus giving the Muppets an offensive content label. So, a warning to anybody who is on Disney Plus thinking about streaming the Muppets to their house, appropriately now has to deal with an offensive adult content label or whatever. So, those are the main topics. There's other topics as well. There is, I don't know if we'll get to them today or not. Might not be the appropriate time, but we will have the Clarence Thomas dissent and the Alito dissent for the Supreme Court. I might do those tomorrow. So, and yes, I get that I'm sounding a little hoarse. I'm not sure why. It's probably just generally that I'm tired. That's probably it. But, we'll have fun anyway. Who cares? What's a little fatigue among friends? But, give me just a second, guys. I am going to run really quickly. And I will, let me fix my hair up. And I'll be back in just a moment. Cheney Gearhart, don't tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy. Don't tell me how to live my life. I'll be right back. All right. Okay. Here we go. Back to it. So again, my apologies for the little delay here. But we're back and we are going into this. So I hope you are all no, I will not be doing a Twitch stream tonight. I hope you are all having a good time, a good night, a good day, whatever it is. I don't know where you are. I know you're not in Australia, but that's about it. So there were some chats that came in earlier. I want to go ahead and address them. They were Justice chats, and they are large ones. They're large ones. So I want to make sure and read them right away. We've got Don Consuelo with 200 Canadian combined. So I'm going to read the whole thing here. It says, YouTube is losing its mind. Your craziness today mirrors my own as I had a dozen videos removed, a warning issued for criticizing Bill Gates over synthetic beef, somehow violating COVID medical misinformation, and a strike for a months-old video on Ken Paxton charging the Project Veritas subject in Texas violating the election rules, all within 2 days. My channel is tiny and I have no recourse. I'm not asking for anything and plan to silently donate, but seeing the stream yeeted sucked. Yeah, man. YouTube is going off the rails on some of this stuff. So, I'm really sorry to hear that they hit you on that stuff. That is crazy. That is crazy. They're going after people. I don't know what they're so afraid of. What they're so afraid of on this, but that is where we are. So, also, yes, if people have not noticed, I hope you've noticed, YouTube has not been great at sending out notifications lately. They've not been terrific at that. And it seems like when I do have a stream, it's not always the best at allowing people to stay and watch it. So make sure you're here weeknights at 11 p.m. This is when the show is, but that's great. Okay, so on to the first subjects. On to the first subject. What do we got here? This one? Yes. Let me fix this a little bit. This is an article from the... What? This is an article from The Atlantic. Let me make sure we're actually... And this is on court packing. Now, I have not read this entire thing. We're going to read it together. I thought it would be a fun thing to endeavor into. Notice the language use here. It's not court packing, it's expanding the court, right? So we're going to do that. We've got Expanding the Court by Michael Klarman. And this is posted just this morning. So this is this person's idea. Expanding the court is now or never. Court reform is imperative to the preservation of American democracy. Democracy. Because if there was ever a way to protect American democracy, it would be expanding the court. It is not my birthday. No, my birthday's in December. I don't know what devious rumors going around on that, but Okay. Very weird. All right. Let's just delve into it then. Supporters of Donald Trump. Oh, by the way, in honor of this Disney Plus theme, giving the Muppets the offensive content. Any offensive chats or whatever will be read in Kermit voice. So, but only if they're offensive. If they're not offensive, you get normal me. Supporters of Donald Trump assaulted the Capitol on January 6, 2021. But American democracy has been under siege for far longer from both former President Trump and the Republican Party. So we've already figured out who the villains of this story are. Right? The villains of this story are clearly Donald Trump and the Republicans. This is the non-biased journalistic perspective we're looking for. Everything. Democracy has been under siege for far longer. Okay, sorry. Trump's transgressions against democracy are well known. They include having attacked the press as the enemy of the people. Well, that if there isn't a way to destroy democracy that doesn't involve attacking the press as the enemy of the people, I don't know what is. What does that have to do with democracy at all? Assailed sitting judges. Do you remember all the times that Donald Trump assailed sitting judges? Literally assailed them. Politicized the Justice Department. It was never politicized before. Wasn't under Obama, certainly not. When he used the Justice Department to go after his political opponents, when he used the IRS to go after the Tea Party. No, all of this is fine. And the intelligence agencies, literally using the intelligence agencies to go after your upcoming political opponent. Again, undermined transparency in government and encouraged political violence and delegitimized elections. The Republican Party's undermining of democracy began much earlier. Since about 2000, the party has tried to suppress Democratic votes through stringent voter identification laws and purges of voter rolls, which again, look at how this is framed. Suppressing Democratic votes by having voter ID laws and purging voter rolls of dead people. That is a great message right there. You know what? If my party was accused consistently of having dead people vote, I would suggest that purging dead people from voter rolls was suppression of my vote. That seems logically consistent. But again, voter ID is something that is common in the world. It's very common in the world. The only place where it's really not common is here. In addition, Republican legislatures have grotesquely gerrymandered legislative districts, only Republicans, enabling Republicans to maintain control of state legislatures and, at times, the House of Representatives. Not for a long time, though. Like, the Republicans haven't had the House for a while now, while failing to win majorities of the vote. Does this person not understand that? Okay. It's actually really has nothing to do with winning or losing the majority of the vote overall as to whether or not you keep the House, because the House involves different sized voting districts across the country. And so in California, for example, if you win 3 seats in California and you win 3 seats in Montana, Wyoming, and Alaska, the 3 seats in California have way more votes. So that, it's not even close. So that's a dumb comparison. Comparison is stupid. This person's an idiot. Republicans have also erected obstacles to college students' voting. Oh, yeah. You know what? You know what the big problem in this country is? Have you guys heard how hard it is to vote at a college? What are they talking about? Delayed elections that they anticipated they would lose and eviscerated the powers of Democratic governors. Republican state legislatures have also rejected the results of voter initiatives and imposed obstacles to putting such initiatives on the ballot in the first place. In 2020, Democrats overcame it. They overcame the suppression and the oppression of the Republicans. They overcame it, and they triumphed, and they have won. They overcame such hurdles and won control of Congress and the presidency. One of their first legislative initiatives will be a wide-ranging measure to protect the right to vote. End legislative gerrymandering, reduce the influence of money in politics, and secure other democratic reforms. However, because of a combination of structural advantages Republicans have enjoyed in the Senate and the Electoral College, and because of Senator Mitch McConnell's Machiavellian stratagems to pack the Supreme Court. They haven't packed the Supreme Court, you weirdo. There's only 9 justices. This and other democratic reform efforts remain potentially vulnerable to a constitutional veto from today's Republican sympathizing Supreme Court. Yeah, the Supreme Court looks real strong on Republicans right now. Supreme Court is like, oh, feeling cute, might delete Republicans later. Unless Democrats expand the size of the court, small d democratic reform will be doomed before it even begins. They must do this now, as they are unlikely to have another chance. Stupid Monkey Zero says, Nick, the movie It's a Very Muppet Christmas has scenes that implicate Kermit in 9/11. Just Google Kermit did 9/11. Look at the first Reddit thread that explains it. Lol. No, I saw this. I actually saw this. In The Very Muppet Christmas, Kermit has an opportunity to see his life, or to see what the world is like, with if he was never born or if he's not in it, right? And so the movie was filmed after September 11th, and in the scenes where Kermit's alive, the towers are gone. The towers are gone. But when they show Kermit, the world without Kermit existing, the towers are there. So we're not entirely sure how specifically, but in some way or another, Kermit the Frog is the reason the towers are gone. So it was good times. Good times were had by all, I guess, when Kermit was not alive and the towers were still there. Mithrin Emrys says, how very dare you, Nick? 1, fabulous or journalists are stunning and brave. 2, Trump was a meanie poo-poo head. 3, the media will speak truth to power unless that power is the DNC. And 4, they're totes heroes and stuff. Well, yes. I mean, I did leave those out of my analysis. So, okay. This is an Atlantic article, so it's a little bit long. I'll start moving through it. Two factors account for the recent Republican Party assault on democracy. First, the national electorate today is more evenly divided than it was for much of the past century. Suppressing a few thousand votes here and there can alter the results of elections that have enormous political consequences. Oh, can they? Suppressing. So this is, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Republicans have a meme about the 2020 election, and that is, fraudulent votes or like mail-in votes and all this stuff swinging the election. The Democrats have had a meme for a lot longer, and that's called suppression of votes. And their meme theory, which is fully endorsed by the media and approved by YouTube, because it's definitely true, is that what Republicans do is anytime there's a Republican policy, they're suppressing the black vote specifically, very specifically. So if you say, you know what, we're Republican and we think voting should occur over a 4-day period, they'll be like, but black people only vote on the 5th day. Republicans are trying to suppress the black vote. This is how every single Republican proposal is handled that involves the vote. Like you could have a thing that says that anybody can vote anywhere at any time, doing whatever they want. And they would be like, black people don't know how to do anything. You need to give them specific directions. This is suppressing the vote. This is honestly how they report on every single Republican concept around voting. And they're like, they're still back in the Civil War. And it's like, those were Democrats. But I don't get it. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know why this narrative sticks. But this is how they do it. So remember, the journalists are so racist that suggesting someone get some sort of identification card to prove they are who they are when they went to the polls to vote is something that apparently minorities cannot do, according to journalists. I don't think this. I don't think this at all. I happen to believe that all people are capable of getting a card that has like a picture and their name on it issued from a government. I think anybody can manage that. I don't think that it's only white Republicans who are able to accomplish this amazing feat. But when you suggest it, they literally will tell you that means minorities don't get a chance to do it. It's insane. It's insane. And Zevin Zoomer nails it. It's the bigotry of low expectations. It's a great phrase, a great term, or not. It's not a term, it's a phrase, but it's a great phrase that is exceedingly true. And it is the soft racism of the Democrat Party in general, of journalists generally as well. Having any expectation of anybody is racist when you think a certain minority won't be able to meet said expectation. But when you have no basis for thinking that a particular minority can't do it while a majority can, then you might be a little racist. That's all. That's all. Okay. But anyway, let's just point out though that the left's meme on elections is that the Republicans are suppressing the vote. When you purge a voter roll after an election, like they just did up in Michigan or whatever, it's suppressing the vote. Like, how? That's not suppressing the vote? There's not an election right now, so any new vote will have people with an opportunity to register to vote. I have to register to vote I don't get it. Why is it hard? Why is it hard? Mithrin Emrys says people are stupid. Because people are stupid, they will believe anything that they either want to be true or fear could be true. Makes them easy to deceive when you play to want or fear. Terry Goodkind, Wizard's first rule. All right, back to this thing. Second, dramatic demographic changes, together with growing secularization and social liberalism, have led Republicans to conclude that their political agenda no longer commands majority support. No, I don't. I don't think Republicans are of the position that their political agenda doesn't command majority support. I think journalists have declared that Republicans are in the minority entirely. I don't think that Republicans think that they're in the minority. I think we fully believe that we are in the majority. The silent majority is a thing, maybe a fictitious thing, but it's a thing that we believe because we believe that most people have some root in common sense, and most Republicans believe that their policies are based on common sense. For better or worse, for true or false, that's what Republicans believe. So this is just a silly statement. Recognizing that their party performs better when voter turnout decreases, Republicans have chosen to shrink the electorate rather than alter their party's agenda to make it more popular. No. Let's just say that. No. At the same time, Democrats suffer today from several structural features of the American political system that permit minority rule. At the state legislative and congressional levels, Democrats are disadvantaged by a combination of partisan gerrymandering and geographic clustering that often disables them from converting a majority of votes into a majority of legislative seats. Well, look at that. Man, it's just so frustrating for them, apparently. For example, although Democrats in Pennsylvania and Ohio frequently win statewide elections, they've been unable to control either state Senate for nearly the past 4 decades because Democratic voters are inefficiently concentrated in and around large cities. It's clearly the machinations of evil Republicans, I'm sure. These same dynamics shape the congressional delegations such states send to Washington. For example, after recent decennial redistricting, Republicans have won 13 of 18 Pennsylvania congressional seats despite winning only about half of the state's congressional vote. On average, these factors have cost Democrats a couple dozen congressional seats in recent elections. Now, notice what they've done here. That somehow is Republican gerrymandering and not the fact that Democrats appeal to urban centers. That's where Democrats go for their base. They don't do anything to appeal to rural people at all. They haven't for a very long time. They want urban votes. And then they're complaining now, or this one is complaining that, well, but everybody's concentrated in cities. And of course, at the bottom of all of this is this guy saying, wouldn't it just be better if all politicians were Democrats? Like, that's what this article is saying. Wouldn't it just be better if all politicians were Democrats? Democrats are even more disadvantaged in the competition for control of the U.S. Senate, which is why, of course, they just somehow have the Democrat-controlled U.S. Senate right now. But they're super disadvantaged, y'all, just super seriously. Because of a provision in the Constitution that cannot be amended without the consent of every state, Wyoming, with just over 600,000 residents, in California, with nearly 40 million, are each allocated 2 senators. Oh, yes, it's a travesty. Oh, my God. Why would the founders do something so patently ridiculous? Equal state representation in the Senate, which was difficult to justify in 1787, is impossible to reconcile today with the principle of one person, one vote. Again, look at what they want. Wouldn't it just be better if everyone was a Democrat? Yet, of course, this dummy, I guess, doesn't realize that the reason we have equal state representation in the Senate is because the Senate was supposed to represent the states, and the states are co-equal sovereigns. California is not more important than Wyoming to the Union. The states are co-equal sovereigns. California needs Wyoming just like Wyoming needs California. But I love it. I love it. We'll make this about the number of people in a state and ignore every other possible factor. Every other possible factor of import about a state. But all of it matters. And the Senate is there to represent the state's interests. The senators were not originally popularly elected, of course. They were just picked by the state legislatures. Then we had an amendment about that, and they decided to popularly elect senators. In my opinion, one of the worst decisions ever made in the United States. I do not think the Senate should be popularly elected at all. But, they amended the Constitution that way. Let's see. Equal state rep. Oh, wait. Let's see. Today's partisan geography, which features a stark divide between the political preferences of urban and rural voters, greatly benefits the Republican Party. For example, in 2021, the 50 Democratic senators represent about 40 million more voters than the 50 Republican senators. This is an outrage to democracy. Well, it's a good thing we're not a democracy. We're a republic. And every now and then, one of these tight-pantied journalists could do well to remember that. Nova Zero says soft bigotry of low expectations is coined by Majid Nuaz. He's a UK-based former Islamist. That is, he used to abuse Western ideologies by turning it on itself to make radicals, i.e. these idiots. Now he sells red pills. There you go. I did not know that. Lastly, the Electoral College, coupled with another feature of today's partisan geography, the relatively high concentration of white working-class voters in several narrowly divided states, such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, significantly advantages Republican presidential candidates. Here they are. They just won the Senate, they retained control of the House, and they won the presidency, complaining about how unfair it was that they didn't win harder. So, okay. Nova Zero people are saying Majid did not coin that, by the way. So, you'll have to take that up with the chat. Imagine being like this angry that you won. Although Democrats have now won the popular vote in 7 of the past 8 presidential elections, they've won the Electoral College only 5 times. So, on the eve of the 2020 election, while Trump had only about a 3% chance of winning the popular vote, he still had a 10% chance of winning the Electoral College majority. Though Joe Biden won 7 million more popular votes than Trump, or had fewer than 43,000 voters in 3 key states, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, switched sides. The result would have been an electoral college tie and a virtually certain Trump victory in the House of Representatives. These Democratic deficits in the Senate and the Electoral College have enabled Republicans to dominate the Supreme Court. No, it's not just that. By the way, it was Ginsburg refusing to retire. It was Obama having Scalia killed too late. Who? I mean, Scalia dying of natural causes under a pillow at a ranch alone. It was him dying too late in Obama's term. Those are 2 major factors in the current Republican Supreme Court. Despite winning the support of a diminishing minority of voters, Presidents George W. Bush and Donald Trump, neither of whom initially entered the White House with even a plurality of the popular vote, together appointed 5 justices who are on the court today, a majority. 4 of those justices were confirmed by narrow majorities of Republican senators who did not represent a majority of the American people. If the Senate and the Electoral College were more reflective of majority will, today's Supreme Court would look dramatically different. It could not possibly have become the most conservative court in the past 100 years, as several academic studies have demonstrated it to be. This person is super mad. Mega Lone Wolf 20 says, quote, wouldn't it be better if all politicians were Democrats? That works so well for California, a state even the Democrat elite are fleeing. Yes. Yeah. It's almost like the policies that they're advocating aren't appealing to everybody, because people are in different scenarios, different situations. Bad Vibe says, sore winners. Bad case of sour grape because they are cheetahs. And he said cheetahs as if they're fast runners. Fast runners. With their majority on the court, the Republican justices have undermined labor unions, unleashed money in politics, protected corporations. Didn't Obama and Biden both raise more money than anybody ever before? Mr. Bentham says, whenever I hear the argument about the Dems winning the popular vote, I always imagine them yelling at people about them winning at checkers, but we were playing chess. Popular vote means nothing. There you go. Unleashed money in politics, protected corporations from class action litigation and punitive damage awards, curbed antitrust law, eroded the constitutional right to abortion, invalidated gun control measure. Wait, are you just going to ignore the constitutional right to guns? Like, that one's actually written there. The right to abortion isn't. Struck down voluntary efforts by school boards to achieve integration through race-conscious means, and threatened to abolish race-based affirmative action. Please abolish race-based X, including affirmative action. Abolish it. Referring to justices as conservative or Republican appointed or liberal or Democratic appointed is conventional, but this obscures the reality that in today's ultra-polarized environment, justices' voting patterns display fairly consistent partisan preferences, not simply political ideologies. Given this pattern, I will refer to them as either Republican justices or Democratic justices, as that is what they are. God, this is Karen the article. Much as the Republican justices have generally promoted the policies favored by the Republican Party in other areas, so have they facilitated the Republican Party's assault on democracy. In 2013, they effectively nullified the pre-clearance provision in the 1965 Voting Rights Act, as they should have. That was a travesty. It was a travesty of law. Yeah, by the way, if you have voting measures that you want to change in the South, you need to get pre-clearance to do them. In the North, you're fine, though. Why? Oh, you know, that Civil War thing 200 years ago. 150, whatever it is. Which required mostly Southern states to submit proposed changes to their voting practices to the federal government for advance approval in order to ensure the absence of a discriminatory racial purpose or a disparate racial impact. But of course, that's not what the executive was doing, was it? The executive was seeing if they would impact their voter tally at the end of the day. How does this impact my power? But it's not up to the executive. This is clearly unconstitutional. State legislatures get to set the manner in which their elections are conducted, not with permission from the federal government. Let's see. Republican justices have also upheld strict voter identification laws. Oh, yeah, very strict. And purges of voter rolls on the basis of the state's interest in reducing voter fraud, despite numerous studies demonstrating that voter fraud is essentially non-existent. Well, except in Iowa, where the Democrats are now saying there's voter fraud. Well, in New York, where the Democrats said there was voter fraud. Except those, though. Robert Levito says, hey, Nick, do you like caramel? I know of an amazing salted caramel whiskey from Tennessee. I actually don't really care for caramel. I'm getting a few bottles when I can. Would be happy to procure one for you. It has won some awards. It would be wasted on me, my friend, even though I very much appreciate it. I'm just not a caramel person in general, but thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it quite a bit. In 2019, these justices refused to remedy the problem of partisan gerrymandering, which today mostly benefits Republicans. And that's why they're opposed to it now. It didn't seem to oppose partisan gerrymandering when the Democrats were doing it. They have also let loose a virtually unrestricted flow of money into politics on the basis of contrived constitutional rationales. That silly free speech thing. God, what a goof. What are they doing? Those scallywags and their freedom of speech, which disproportionately benefits wealthy donors, corporations, and well-funded interest groups. Rather than defending democracy, the court under Republican control has become another engine of democratic degradation. The run-up to the 2020 election demonstrated how far Republican office holders are prepared to go in suppressing votes to win elections, and the extent to which Republican justices are willing to accommodate such effort. Not at all is the answer. Across the nation, Republican politicians sought to make voting harder during a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. No, they didn't seek to make voting harder. They actually all made it much, much easier, and then they went, maybe not this easy, though. That's the reality. They didn't make voting harder during the pandemic. Nobody had a harder time voting during the pandemic. You cannot convince me. Refusing in some states to expand excuse-based absentee balloting. Refusing to expand is not making it harder. That's keeping it the same. Restricting the availability of drop boxes to collect absentee ballots. Again, that's not making it harder. That's keeping it, it's actually just making it only a little easier instead of a lot easier. And disallowing the counting of absentee ballots postmarked but not received by Election Day. How in God's name does any of this make voting harder? Didn't in any way explain how that makes voting harder. These are all easier methods of voting. They're just, that's like saying, well, they made voting harder by not automatically counting votes of people who didn't vote. It's really difficult. What? Dogsplain says, I don't know who this cuck is, but there's a reason that cities, even ones in Ohio, tend to be hellholes. Also, this guy should go back to using their hand for combing instead of writing their shitty blogs on a website. Rejecting challenges to such actions by Republican politicians. The Republican justices invoked a principle that forbids federal courts to make election changes close to Election Day. Yeah. Those Republican justices really helped everybody out. Even during a historic pandemic, the justices reasoned elected officials are best suited to weigh the costs and benefits of changing election rules, which is completely opposed to the Constitution, and that's great. That approach makes sense, assuming that the elected officials are acting in good faith rather than simply seeking political advantage for their side. Oh, buddy, you have no idea what case you're making, do you? The local officials changing the rules weren't changing them in favor of Republicans in any of these states. Only by pretending that Republican office holders were not deliberately seeking to reduce turnout by Democratic-leaning constituencies could Republican justices plausibly have claimed to be deciding voting rights challenges according to neutral principles of law. All of their decisions benefited Democrats. All of them. What are you talking about? Had the results of the 2020 presidential election been a little bit tighter, legal challenges to late arriving absentee ballots or to such ballots lacking clearly matching signatures might have determined its outcome. Prior to the election, Trump insisted that the Senate quickly confirm his nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett so that the court would have its full complement of Republican justices to resolve any such challenges. Of course, she didn't in any way vote for any of this stuff, ever, so that's again false. Again false. The court's 2000 ruling in Bush v. Gore showed us that a Republican majority court would rule in favor of a Republican presidential candidate on the most minimally plausible of legal rationales. What are they talking about? That's not at all what it showed us. And it didn't happen here, ever. He didn't even get a hearing. Trump's legal challenges to the 2020 election result were, thankfully, not even minimally plausible. Democrats cannot run the risk of future elections being conducted under the watchful eye of Republican justices who've already demonstrated their disinclination to defend democracy in general, or the right to vote in particular in the run-up to the most consequential presidential election since 1860. You say the cooming comment in Kermit voice? Oh yeah. Let me go back and do that again. From Dogsplain. I don't know who this cuck is, but there's a reason that cities, even ones in Ohio, tend to be hellholes. Also, this guy should go back to using their hand for cooming instead of writing their shitty blogs on a website. I agree. Despite the best efforts of Republicans, the 2020 election results have afforded Democrats their second opportunity in 50 years to control the Supreme Court? By packing it. Listen to this. The man goes on and explains how Republicans have master control over all election apparatuses, and then is like, well, despite all that, though, the Democrats won. How did they possibly overcome? The first chance came in February 2016 when Justice Antonin Scalia died suddenly during Barack Obama's presidency. Died suddenly at the end of Obama's presidency. Just suddenly died. Very mysterious. For a moment, Democrats seem likely to finally secure the Supreme Court majority that the structural biases of the Senate and the Electoral College had long prevented. But Senate Majority Leader McConnell blocked that Democratic opportunity, stealing a Supreme Court seat for the first time in American history. They stole it. McConnell insisted that historical precedent supported leaving Supreme Court vacancies unfulfilled during presidential election years, but this was a lie. Never before had a Senate controlled by one party blocked a court nominee selected by the president of another party simply because the vacancy occurred during a presidential election year. In 2020, McConnell confirmed his hypocrisy by ensuring that the Senate confirmed the nomination of Barrett just 8 days before the election. Now in power, Democrats must work to remedy the anti-democratic tilt of the American political system, doing so directly by, say, ridding the country of the Electoral College, or reapportioning the Senate according to population is virtually impossible, though proposals for workarounds such as adding more states to the Union and enacting the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact do exist and should be pursued. Constitutional amendments would be required to fundamentally alter these institutions, and amendments are practically unattainable when one of the two major parties benefits from the status quo. Adding states to the Union and enacting the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact are not simple majority votes. So those are a little bit more trouble. Reforming the Supreme Court to undo its anti-democratic bias, however, does not require a constitutional amendment. The size of the court is set by statute, not by the Constitution. Congress altered the court size 7 times in the 19th century, though not since 1869, and sometimes for reasons that amounted to nothing more than raw partisanship. In 2021, Democrats have far greater justification. They should expand the court by 4 seats to provide a center-left country with a center-left court. Such a court would, importantly, ensure the constitutionality of democratic measures to expand access to health care, deal with gun violence, address human-caused climate change, and more fairly distribute the nation's tax burden. More fairly distribute the nation's tax burden. Oh, buddy, you definitely don't want them to more fairly distribute that tax burden. I would love for you to more fairly distribute that tax burden. Half the country doesn't pay any. Oh my God. But even more crucial, such a court would not threaten Democratic attempts to undo the Republican Party's recent efforts to undermine democracy through voter suppression and other electoral machinations. Let's rewrite that sentence to do what he actually means. What he means is, but even more crucial, such a court would not threaten Democratic attempts to undo the Republican Party. Stop. That's what he actually means. Stop spamming. Janet. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Stop it. The principal argument against Democrats expanding the courts is that Republicans will simply respond in kind the next time they have the opportunity to do so, inciting a never-ending retaliatory spiral. However, there are three powerful responses to this argument. Powerful. First, Republicans initiated this arms race by stealing the court vacancy that was rightfully Obama's to fill in 2016. For Democrats to refrain from responding in kind would be to disarm unilaterally. Republicans need to learn from this, by the way. Republicans need to learn from this. The Democrats consider equal application of policy to be unilateral disarmament. As game theorists have shown, the quickest way to restore a stable equilibrium after one party in a reiterative game has repudiated a cooperative norm is to retaliate in kind. Failing to do so incentivizes only more of the norm-breaking behavior. Second, Republicans themselves will almost surely enlarge the size of the court the first time they have the opportunity and see the need to do so. No, they've had the opportunity to do so, and they didn't do it. And it would have been better for them to expand the court when they last had the opportunity. Suppose the Democrats refrain from expanding the court in 2021 to 2022. Next, imagine that 2 Republican justices are tragically killed in an automobile accident, and President Biden and the Democrat Senate replace them with 2 Democratic justices. Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, none of y'all get in cars. They've just unveiled the plan. Restoring Democrats to the 5-4 majority they ought to have enjoyed after Scalia's death. Now suppose that in 2024, a Republican is elected president and Republicans win control of Congress. Does anyone doubt that Senate Majority Leader McConnell would pursue court expansion? His argument for doing so would be precisely the same as his argument last October for confirming Barrett. Republicans had the power to do it, and nothing in the Constitution prohibited them from doing it. He might even add a line similar to the one he used in 2016 when blocking the confirmation of Judge Merrick Garland. Democrats would have done the same thing if they were in his position. After all, they had talked about expanding the size of the court in 2021, so he would have been a fool not to do so. Bad Vibe says, from 1955 to present, Republicans have only had 24 years of congressional majority. Both Democrats had the rest. If they failed to get things done, don't blame Republicans, blame Democrats. Expanding the court is a form of political hardball. Political hardball. It's not a game, buddy. The Supreme Court isn't a game. Defined as defying norms and traditions without violating the letter of the law, which Republicans have excelled at playing over the past decade or so. In addition to blocking the Garland nomination, McConnell prevented Obama from filling dozens of Court of Appeals vacancies during his last 2 years in office, used the filibuster nearly as many times in his 8 years as minority leader as it had been used in the previous 100 years, disabled some federal agencies by refusing to confirm Obama's nominees to head them, and ensured that the 2009 stimulus package in response to the Great Recession secured almost no Republican support in the Senate. So, this is equivalent to Democrats hypothetically blocking a coronavirus relief package last spring to hinder Trump's re-election prospects. Is it? Oh man, Democrats didn't do that at all, did they? A step that not a single Democrat publicly advocated taking. The delusion. In addition, at the state level, Republicans had recently packed the Supreme Courts of Arizona and Georgia, attempting to do so in North Carolina and threatened to do so in Florida. For Democrats to expand the court in 2021 would, as with McConnell's machinations, violate no constitutional rule, and McConnell almost certainly would do the same thing were he in their shoes. One of the most difficult tactical questions in contemporary politics is how to respond when members of the other party play hardball. In general, Democrats should not play the game simply because Republicans played it first. First! Yep, Republicans started it all, guys. It all started with Republicans. It is morally reprehensible that Republicans suppress the votes of Democratic-leaning constituencies, ignore the results of popular referenda they disfavor, eviscerate the powers of Democratic governors, and seek to overturn the results of presidential elections on the basis of unsubstantiated allegations of fraud and wild conspiracy theories. Democrats should do none of these things. And yet, it cannot be a persuasive argument against Democrats expanding the court that Republicans will simply retaliate in kind one day. Republicans have amply demonstrated they will break the norm against court expansion when they see the advantage in doing so, regardless of what Democrats do now. Yeah, Republicans haven't been trying to get rid of Roe versus Wade for, I don't know, since it came in. And at no point in time could Republicans have, just packed the court to get rid of Roe versus Wade. I mean, they could have, but they just didn't. Even though they'll do it as soon as it's politically advantageous. The third response to the retaliatory cycle concern is that Democratic expansion of the court could facilitate a new political epoch by defeating the Republicans' anti-democratic tactics and thus forcing the GOP to compete on a more even playing field. In this altered political environment, the unpopularity of the Republican Party's agenda appeals to racial and religious resentment and xenophobia, combined with neo-Ayn Randian economic policies such as tax cuts for the wealthy, economic deregulation, and environmental degradation. None of those are Ayn Randian, neo or otherwise. Will cause the party to lose elections consistently. That has not happened to date because of the democratic deficits in American political institutions and widespread Republican voter suppression and other electoral machinations. We would win if they weren't cheating, he says. He screams. He cries. A series of electoral defeats might lead the Republican Party to enact a platform more appealing to today's median voter, abandon practices of voter suppression, and perhaps even acknowledge its malfeasance in stealing a court seat in 2016. This scenario may seem Panglossian, but the United States has periodically experienced such tectonic shifts in politics, most notably beginning in 1896, 1932, and 1968, in which one party's political dominance for decades eventually led the other to reform itself in order to expand its appeal. We should want this new epoch, not because it benefits Democrats, but because it benefits democracy. I don't think this person even knows. I don't think this person even knows what they're writing. Like, I genuinely think they're delusional. However, creating a new political epoch requires entrenching democracy. One of the first reform measures now that Democrats have taken control of Congress must involve protecting and expanding access to the ballot. Voter registration should be automatic when citizens turn 18 and easy for older citizens. Same-day registration enhances turnout without increasing fraud. Despite what Republicans baselessly charge, felony disenfranchisements, which has enormous racially disparate effects, and in many cases was instituted long ago to that exact end. Wait. Should be terminated. So, okay, so they want felon voters, felony disenfranchisement. Oh my gosh. Election day should be made a national holiday. The number of early voting days, polling places, and voting machines should be increased. If election day is a national holiday, there doesn't need to be any early voting at all. To stop the national disgrace of forcing working class black Americans in Atlanta and elsewhere to wait in lines for as long as 5 to 10 hours to vote. Absentee ballots should be available without excuse. Onerous identification requirements for voting should be eliminated because they reduce turnout on the pretext of reducing fraud. Partisan gerrymandering has no plausible justification and should be ended. Yet a Republican-controlled court could easily invalidate such democracy-entrenching legislation. At least, well, yes, because the states get to choose how the manner of their elections, not the federal government. At least insofar as it applied to state and presidential elections on the basis of contrived federalism rationales already developed and implemented by Republican justices. Those same justices could conceivably do the same to most other Biden administration reform measures. All of this is to say that court reform is a prerequisite to entrenching democracy. The Democrats must do it or forgo any hope of implementing such of their reform agenda. Bad Vibe says the U.S. isn't a democracy. We are a republic. People should be thankful they get any say at any state or at state and federal levels. The real question confronting Democrats is not whether to expand the court, but when to do so. Some commentators have suggested that court reform be held in abeyance as a sword of Damocles hanging over the court, to be implemented only if Republican justices overplay their hand. Two arguments counsel against the Democrats waiting. First, Democrats may lose control of either or both houses of Congress in 2022. This is the main point. They're terrified of what happens in 2 years. They're terrified of what happens in 2 years. And this is, of course, the challenge Republicans have. Republicans vote in 2 years. The real objective of all the 2020 election BS was to convince Republicans that voting doesn't matter. That's what they've been trying to do. Whatever you think about the 2020 election, the big motivation behind the narrative around the 2020 election was to convince Republicans to never vote again. And they've done a very, very good job of doing that. They've done a very good job of doing that. But honestly, if you want any real conspiracy around the 2020 election, it's convince people to not vote. If you convince Republicans not to vote, then Democrats win. They're terrified of 2022. Terrified of it. Both houses of Congress in 2022 or even earlier, should a Democratic senator from a state with a Republican governor become seriously ill or die. Voter turnout can decline as much as 50% in midterm contests when the electorate is far less demographically representative of the country as a whole. For example, after Democrats won landslide victories across the board in 2008, Republicans seized control of the House in 2010, less because of the unpopularity of Obama's agenda than because of the radically different composition of the off-year electorate and the decision of Republican congressional leaders to sabotage economic recovery and hope voters blame the president. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. Although 2022 presents a relatively favorable slate of Senate contests for Democrats,
The party's long-term chances of Senate control are very likely to deteriorate over time. Consider that in 2016, when Hillary Clinton won the national popular vote by 2 percentage points, Trump won the popular vote in 30 states. In addition, for the first time since the direct election of U.S. senators began in 1914, every Senate contest in 2016 was won by the candidate of the party that also won that state's electoral college votes. Same was true in 2020, with the sole exception of the Maine Senate race. Similarly, in 2012, when Obama won the national popular vote by 4 percentage points, his Republican opponent Mitt Romney won the popular vote in the least 25 populist states by 6 percentage points, suggesting that the ideological preference of voters in the median Senate seat are generally more conservative than those of the median American voter, given a combination of Senate malapportionment, current partisan geography, and the nationalization of Senate contests. Republicans enjoy a large presumptive advantage in the battle for future control of the Senate. The Senate scenario is on track to worsen for Democrats in the years ahead. Demographers predict that by 2040, 70% of the U.S. population will live in just 15 states. In other words, the remaining 30% of the population will choose 70% of the Senate. Assuming that current partisan geography persists, i.e., low population density translates into disproportionately Republican vote shares, then Democrats may not have a realistic chance of ever winning Senate control after the next couple of electoral cycles. Good. Keep congregating in cities, you weirdos. The other reason not to wait to expand the court until Republican justices overplay their hand is that they can and will act strategically to avoid the appearance of excessive partisanship. Chief Justice John Roberts has already demonstrated an inclination and capacity to cast the occasional strategic vote against ideological and partisan interests to enable liberal victories in highly salient cases, and thus protect the court from political retaliation. Yes, he's done that literally every time it matters. Such instances include Roberts' crucial last-minute vote switch to uphold the Affordable Care Act in 2012, his vote in 2019 to exclude the citizenship question from the 2020 Census Forum, and his votes in 2020 to invalidate the administration's rescission of DACA and to invalidate a restrictive Louisiana abortion statute. Roberts would need only one ally among the other 5 Republican justices to ensure that the court refrains from rendering decisions likely to incite Democrats to expand the court until Democrats no longer fully control the federal government, at which point it will be too late. Yes, Robert is a deep thinking strategist like this. He's like, God, if we can just get those Democrats out of federal control, then I can vote conservative. No indication Roberts would do that. This is silly. This is just silly. Bad Vibe says, if you think voting schemes took place, use 2022 and vote them out, because I think a certain dementia-ridden sniffer-in-chief is doing a great job red-pilling people. Union energy and agricultural laborers likely flipped. And then finally, so don't walk, run. Reforming the court should not be the number one priority of the Biden administration and the new Democratic Congress. They need to pass COVID-19 relief and voting rights reform measures first, but it should be high on their list. Court reform is imperative to the preservation of American democracy. If Democrats fail to enact such reform now, they may not get another chance. Michael Klarman is the Kirkland and Ellis professor at Harvard Law School. So there you go. There you go. Woo, that was a long article. That was a lot to read, a lot to digest there. But I saw it. I wanted to read through it. Pieces in the Atlantic tend to be verbose. They also tend to be a little bit, they're a little bit more than your average journo trash. I mean, it is trash, don't get me wrong. It's terrible. Terrible. It is wrong on many things, but it's got more to it. It's meatier. And so I wanted to go through it and let you know exactly where the left's intelligentsia is. Remember, this is a professor at Harvard Law. This guy is I've never heard of him. I don't care anything about him, but he's likely very, very respected in Democrat circles. So this is, and this is the kind of person that Democrats in Congress and Joe Biden are going to be taking heed of. This is the kind of person they're going to listen to. So it's important to know what's going on there. Bryce Byerly says, you deserve a reward for slogging through that article. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's much appreciated. All right. Next thing. The next thing on the agenda is my YouTube woes. I was hoping I would have a little bit more information when we went live. So when I first created this thing, I was hoping for a little bit more from YouTube. But let me bring it up just to let people know what happened. So earlier today, I was streaming the Attorney General confirmation hearing for Merrick Garland, who, by the way, I think is wholly unqualified to be Attorney General. He may have been qualified to be a Chief Justice or to be a Justice of the Supreme Court. I don't know that he'd make a good one, but he'd make a liberal justice, whatever. But he may be qualified for that. I don't think he's qualified to be Attorney General. He doesn't seem to understand anything about immigration or how immigration matters. He's never been to the U.S. border. He's now, not everybody needs to go to the U.S. border, but if you're going to be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, you should probably have an idea what's going on at the U.S. border. He doesn't know what cartels do. He doesn't seem to know anything about that. He doesn't know anything about Section 230. I'm not sure what he does know at this point. So I think he'll be a disaster. But I was streaming the confirmation hearing of Merrick Garland, and my stream was taken down about 3.5 hours into it. That stream is currently up with no issues on my archive channel. Right now, you could go right now and watch every single minute of that stream. It has not been struck over there. There is no problematic content. I'm waiting to see if it gets monetized because it had limited ads on it, but I even like a jackass, I appealed the limited ads distinction, but it takes a while for those to come through. So, yeah, it's currently still under review, but it is there. So the second part I will get uploaded tonight, but yeah, so that big devious strike is only applied to this channel, not to the archive channel. So that's great. That's great. But here's what, so it happened. I hit, hey, at Team YouTube, you want to tell me why you're misrepresenting things to my audience, stating that I am spamming, having a deceptive practice, or a scam? You told me it was a copyright issue. You're knowingly lying about me and my line of business. I demand a remedy. So here was the, here's the thing. Oh, so Aiden Paladin says, on my end, it doesn't say copyright. It says spam, deceptive practices, or scams. And that's the screen that you would get when you went to the channel. Here is the email that I got. Hi, Ricada Law. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our community guidelines. We've removed the following content from YouTube. Confirmation hearing for Attorney General Merrick Garland. This was, of course, what they removed was the video I was doing. We know this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. Content breaks our rules, we remove it. If you think we made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look. Keep reading for more details. So then we've got how your content violated the policy. We've detected content in your live stream that may belong to somebody else and was not corrected following repeated warnings of possible abuse. I've never gotten any warning, ever, of any kind. You may not have intended to include this content, but live stream should be actively monitored by the channel owner, and any potential issues should be corrected in a timely manner. There are no warnings. Nothing like this happened. Nothing like this happened. I don't even know where a warning like this would show up. A friend of the show sent to me that it would show up in your YouTube studio, which is great, except I still don't know where in the YouTube studio that it would show up, but it also didn't happen. There were no warnings at all. So, because it's the first time, this is just a warning. If it happens again, your channel will get a strike and you won't be able to do things like upload, post, or live stream for 1 week. So as of right now, I have the warning strike on my channel. That'll go away after like 90 days, or more appropriately, it should go away after the appeal goes through. Now, I have reached out to my YouTube partner, manager, and I have asked them to look into this. They have responded to me. They said they're looking into it. As soon as they give me an answer on it, I will, keep everybody posted on what's going on. I have a meeting with them tomorrow to talk about this issue specifically. So that's the update on that for anybody who's not aware. That's what happened today. Again, let me be clear. The video stream that I was using today was not a YouTube stream. It was from the Senate. It was from the Senate itself. The U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee had their own video feed from the Senate website. That's what I was using. I was not using C-SPAN. I was not using NPR or Washington Post or anything else. I was just using the actual stream from the government. So there were no copyright issues going on. Now, as for people asking if you could sue over this, let's briefly just address that as a fun hypothetical. Hypothetically, it would be possible to sue over this, although obviously it would be ridiculously expensive, and at the end of the day, the big problem I would have would be damages. I assume I get to keep all of the super chats from the first show because they're still listed in my super chat sort of receipt area. I won't know that until tomorrow night probably, if that goes through or not. But presumably the super chats still go to me, so I wouldn't have any damage that way. I could argue that there was damage to my reputation because they have right here slandered me in my business, right? My business is creating YouTube content, and they're saying that I'm violating a policy on spam, deceptive practices, and scams, which isn't true. And I know it's not true because they told me right here that my content violated this policy, which is not that policy. So YouTube is clearly making a false statement of fact against me that could, in theory, harm my reputation. It might be per se defamatory because it's in my trade or line of work. And they're doing so with knowledge of the falsity because they have to have knowledge. They're right here. Here's the truth. Unless they're going to argue that this one was the truth and they're lying to me, which would be weird, I guess. But that's a possibility. But at the end of the day, again, damages. Even if they took the super chats from that stream or whatever, we're not talking about the amount of money it would take to sue YouTube. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, but anyway, But anyway, that's just to explore that. I know some people were curious about that. At this point, there's nothing to do with that at all. I would much prefer an amicable remedy where they retract the strike and I get something I can go ahead and share with people that they made a mistake. That would be preferable. I actually don't want to like go into a giant fight with YouTube. I would much rather just make stuff and not have disciplinary actions, especially for something I didn't do. How can they appropriate your super chats? Because super chats, like ad revenue, all gets paid out on the same day of the month, which is, well, I got January's payment today. So all of January's stuff got paid out today. It pays out about the 21st of the subsequent month. So it's really easy for them to appropriate any portion or all of that because they have, 20 something days to do it. Okay, so anyway, that's that. This is a long article too. Let's do the Kermit thing first. Angry Baneling says, but they were sent to you. They're not ad-based, which YouTube can deprive you of. Oh, I mean, they can. They can do it. They have the capability. You might be able to fight them for it, but never underestimate their ability. Okay. Let's talk about this. Disney Plus gives The Muppet Show an offensive content disclaimer before select episodes. Classic series, which first aired in 1976, was released on the streaming service on Friday. Oh, by the way, we're at 820 likes, and of course, I will have a glass of whiskey at 1,000 likes. If you like the show, make sure you like the show. Helps me out. Helps tell YouTube to piss off all of those things. I really appreciate it when you guys do like the show. And as tradition, when we get over 1,000 likes, I take a drink of whiskey. My mustache is itchy. So here we go. Before playing the music and lighting the lights, fans who choose to binge The Muppet Show on Disney Plus will be shown an offensive content warning ahead of select episodes. The classic series, which first aired in 1976, was released on the streaming service on Friday. So, thank you guys. Cleared the like hurdle very quickly. This is Old Forester Prohibition style. This is some good stuff. I like this whiskey. Oh, gee, Bert. Bert, you're yelling again. That was a good Family Guy moment. Homicide, life on Sesame Street. Bert and Ernie. Bert, you're yelling again. God damn it, Ernie. Oh man. All right, we're gonna read this message in Kermit voice. This program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. Damn right. That fat ass bitch, Miss Piggy, I had to pretend to like her, but she was shoving me all sorts of folds in disgusting places. It ain't easy being green. These stereotypes were wrong then, and they're wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. What? The disclaimer states, Disney is committed to creating stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe. So we want to more positively portrays Hindus and Dindus and stop treating them like second-class peoples. Variety reported the disclaimer has been added to a total of 18 episodes throughout the show's 5 seasons, including those guest hosted by Jim Nabors, Joel Grey, Steve Martin, Peter Sellers, Cleo Lane, James Coco, Spike Milligan, Crystal Gale, Kenny Rogers, Beverly Sills, Jonathan Winters, Alan Arkin, James Coburn, John Bays, Johnny Cash, Debbie Harry, Wally Boag, and Marty Feldman. So, there you go, apparently. The disclaimer appears at the beginning of these episodes for 12 seconds. Label has been added to each video for a different reason. For example, during Cash's episode, the legendary music star sings in front of a Confederate flag. Oh no! Not a Confederate flag. According to a statement from Disney's Stories Matter initiative, the company is in the process of reviewing our library and adding advisories to content that includes negative depictions or mistreatment of people or cultures as part of an ongoing commitment to diversity and inclusion. Oh my gosh. Hit 1K likes about 6 times now. On my end, it just shows 1,082 likes. I don't know. I don't know what's going on y'all's end. It hasn't gone down for me. Oh, speaking of this, I want to show you guys something. There is we've got a new listing up on Teespring. Can I go to the listing? I want to go to the listing. How do I go to the store listing? Just a second. Here we go. We've got a new listing up on Teespring here. I wanted to show you guys in case someone in the chat mentioned no step on Sneck. We've got a no step on snake neck gaiter here that you can get if you like the neck gaiters. If you like those. We also have regular masks as well. We've got this one, no step on snake, the white background, and then of course the yellow. Oh, it's a fanny pack. You can get a fanny pack, I guess, if you have autism or something. So if you want any of those, they're available. So you can check those out if you want. If you want one. I forgot the fanny pack. Does this have different colors of the mask? Or is this? No, it's only the white. It's only the white. Oh no, there's gray. And there's red too. So there are different colors of the mask, even though that looks like a diaper. So, there you go. Yeah, I don't know why it says snake. I might have to talk to my guy about that because I said snack, but we'll have to check that out. Maybe hold off on that. I'll see if I can get that changed. Look, I didn't make the design. But yeah, we'll get that snake changed to snack. But yeah. Anyway, so I guess don't buy it yet. Unless you wanted to say snake. We'll get the snack one put up. But since someone mentioned it, I was reminded. But then again, I hadn't seen the snake thing. God damn it. Okay. Here we go. Rather than removing this content, we see an opportunity to spark conversation and open dialogue on history that affects us all. I'm going to affect you, you bitch. We also want to acknowledge that some communities have been erased or forgotten altogether. And we're committed to, like the Confederates. They're actively contributing to the erasure of the Confederate South. And by the way, there are lots of people that have pride in the Confederacy, not because of its of anything to do with its position on slavery, but because they had relatives who fought and died for the Confederacy, and who fought for their states and their state sovereignty and their relatives. So it's weird. It's like these issues are actually more complicated than just we want to oppress black people, because that wasn't actually the sole issue of the Civil War. I think most of you guys know this. What the hell is this? I think most of you guys know this, but apparently Disney and other places don't. So, sorry. And we're committed to giving voice to their stories as well, the statement continues. To that end, we've brought together a group of experts from outside our company to advise us as we assess our content and ensure it accurately represents our global audiences. I would love to know who's on the group of experts. As we embrace each other's stories, we embrace possibility. And that's why we're committed to doing the best we can to represent communities authentically. So people not only see the best in themselves, but the world can see it too. Other examples where Disney Plus viewers can see the content warnings are on the classic films such as The Aristocrats. It's The Aristocats. I'm pretty sure The Aristocrats is not a classic Disney film. The Aristocats, Dumbo, Peter Pan, and Swiss Family Robinson. Swiss Family Robinson? What's offensive in that? All right, like on Dumbo, I get it. You've got the Black Crows or whatever who are hilarious. I guess that's in Dumbo. In Peter Pan, obviously they're making fun of gays with Peter Pan. So, and Hook's a pedo, and they're very mad that maps are being misrepresented. But I don't know what Swiss Family Robinson. The Asian Pirates? It better not be the Siamese Cats and Aristocats. Oh my God. Disney Plus has blown past the company's subscriber expectations, totaling 94.9 million subscribers as of its latest quarter ending January 2nd. Streaming service first launched in November 2019. Neff, in Peter Pan, it's not the natives, actually. It's pedos. Someone said the Siamese in Aristocats. I thought it was Lady and the Tramp, but I'm just going with the chat. The chat has all of the knowledge and all of the answers. Look at Walt doing this the Roman salute here. No wonder this is happening. So anyway, I just thought this was a funny story because it's the Muppets. I mean, are we serious? The Muppets? We're worried about the Muppets being offensive? We gotta stop. We gotta stop this. Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades says in preacher voice, hello, my brother. Do you know which way to the nearest town? Yeah, it's back the way you came. Loads shotgun in racism. Hey, preacher man, looks like you're on the wrong side of the lunch counter. Better get back to your own drinking fountain there. Get back in the boxcar and head across town. Your kind ain't welcome around here. Benjamin Myers says the Siamese cat song is now cut from Lady and the Tramp. That's not true. That's not true, is it? Is it? Is that a true thing? Oh my gosh. No! We are Siamese, if you please. Ding, ding, ding. We are Siamese, if you don't please. Oh my gosh. I can't believe, like, what? Why? Okay, this is the last story we've got. This is whistleblower at Smith College resigns over racism. Jody Shaw made less in a year than the cost of tuition. She was offered a settlement but turned it down. Here's why. Are you guys ready for a riveting tale of racism in higher institutions? But wait, it's not what you think, bigots. Yeah, imagine if Gilbert and Sullivan were around now. Yeah, show me more about Nanky Poo or whatever. I've got a little list. We all know that something morally grotesque is swallowing liberal America. Almost no one wants to risk talking about it out loud. Every day I get phone calls from anxious Americans complaining about an ideology that wants to pull all of us into the past. I get calls from parents telling me about the damaging things being taught in schools, so-called anti-racist programs that urge children to obsess on the color of their skin. I get calls from people working in corporate America forced to go into training in which they learn they carry collective race-based guilt or benefit from collective race-based virtue. I get calls from young people just launching their careers telling me they feel they have no choice but to profess fealty to this ideology in order to keep their jobs. Almost no one who calls me is willing to go public, and I understand why. To go public with what's happening is to risk their jobs and their reputations. But the hour is very late. It calls for courage, and courage has come in the form of a woman named Jody Shaw. Jody Shaw was, until this afternoon, a staffer at Smith College in Northampton. Massachusetts. She made $45,000 a year, less than the yearly tuition at the school. She is a divorced mother of 2 children. She is a lifelong liberal and an alumna of the college. And she has a front row seat. She's had a front row seat to the illiberal, neo-racist ideology masquerading as progress. Red pill. Hey, Jody. Welcome. Welcome to the other side. Maybe you should rethink that liberalism there, Jody. If you need a liberal exorcism, give me a call. We can do it over the phone. I can fix you. I can fix you. The red pills have only just begun for you. It's a tough road, but trust me, you'll end up better in the long run. So, funny story about the Siamese cats from Lady and the Tramp. Years ago, do you guys remember answering machines? This isn't a funny story. Do you guys remember answering machines before voicemail existed? You had a literal, like a box that sat there, like a reel-to-reel audio tape, and it would record people who called your house. It would pick up and it would actually record. These are the old ones. We're talking with tapes in them, not the digital ones. Digital ones came later. After watching Lady and the Tramp, at some point, my mom and I recorded together the message. It was the "We Are Siamese" thing, because that was like a goofy thing to do, was to record a wacky message for your answering machine. Oh God. Oh, how embarrassing. It was the "We Are Siamese, if you please, and if you don't, please, leave your name and number at the beep, and we will call you back in just a peep." I still remember that stupid message that my mom and I had together. And we had to record it like 4 times because we had to say it together. And I was like, I would have been less than 10. I don't know exactly how old I was. But yeah. So there you go. We were racially and culturally appropriating Asian cats. God, you are white. Yeah. Very much. Very much. Rekieta Law shouldn't be canceled for racism, but for being fucking cringe. Sheldon Hall says, remember every time your kids watch Frozen, Elsa was named after an adult film actress named Elsa Jean, who starred in over 130 adult films. She was not. Thank you, Disney, for knowing family-friendly entertainment and ending racism. You know, I mean, no, Elsa Jean doesn't predate Frozen, does she? Listen, one of the few people who can fit more fists up their ass than me is Elsa Jean. Okay. Woo! In October 2020, after Shaw felt that she had exhausted all of her internal options, she posted a video on YouTube blowing the whistle on what she says is an atmosphere of racial discrimination at the school. I asked that Smith College stop reducing my personhood to a racial category. Oh, she is a liberal, definitely. Okay. Stop telling me what I must think and feel about myself, she said. Stop presuming to know who I am or what my culture is based upon my skin color. Stop asking me to project stereotypes and assumptions on others based on their skin color. watch the whole thing here. Nah. And why does she have a Shure SM7B? Why does she have a $500 mic? Was she doing podcasts normally? Now today she's resigning from the college. In doing that and in speaking out, she is turning down a settlement that would have given her a much easier way out. We need more people like her. Here's how Shaw put it in her resignation letter to Smith College President Kathleen McCartney, which she sent to me to publish in full. Dear President McCartney, I'm writing to notify you that effective today, I'm resigning from my position as Student Support Coordinator in the Department of Residence Life at Smith College. This has not been an easy decision as I now face a deeply uncertain future. As a divorced mother of two, the economic uncertainty brought about by this resignation will impact my children as well, but I have no choice. The racially hostile environment at the college has subjected me to for the past 2.5 years has left me physically and mentally debilitated. I can no longer work in this environment, nor can I remain silent about a matter so central to basic human dignity and freedom. I graduated from Smith College in 1993. Those 4 years were among the best in my life. Naturally, I was over the moon when years later, I had the opportunity to join Smith as a staff member. I love my job and I love being back at Smith. But the climate and my place at the college changed dramatically when, in July 2018, the culture war arrived at our campus when a student accused a white staff member of calling campus security on her because of racial bias. The student, who is black, shared her account of this incident widely on social media, drawing a lot of attention to the college. Before even investigating the facts of the incident, the college immediately issued a public apology to the student, placed the employee on leave, and announced its intention to create new initiatives, committees, workshops, trainings, and policies aimed at combating systemic racism on campus. Because of course they did. Of course they did. Without investigating anything. They're like, whoa, we're super sorry. We're going to do all this stuff. Here's a bunch of trainings, mandatory attendance for all students. We got to fight this systemic racism. In spite of an independent investigation into the incident that found no evidence of racial bias, the college ramped up its initiatives aimed at dismantling the supposed racism that pervades the campus. This only served to support the now prevailing narrative that the incident had been racially motivated and that Smith staff are racist. Allowing this narrative to dominate has had a profound impact on the Smith community and on me personally. For example, this is my favorite part of the whole story. In August 2018, just days before I was to present a library orientation program into which I had poured a tremendous amount of time and effort, and which had previously been approved by my supervisors, I was told that I could not proceed with the planned program because it was going to be done in rap form and because you were white. As my supervisor told me, that could be viewed as cultural appropriation. My supervisor made clear he did not object to a rap in general, nor to the idea of using music to convey orientation information to students. The problem was my skin color. Imagine you're going to college. You show up for a library orientation because apparently you hate yourself already. And you're like, okay, I'm going to learn how this library works. And they're like, yo, books are good because they're great. You should read more and asphyxiate yourself. Like, can you imagine? You're like trying to be an adult for the first time in your life. You're going out and some jackass is rapping to you like some 90s fire awareness cartoon. What is happening? Where are they thinking that rap is the ideal way to present a library orientation? Ever. Never. It's never the right way. Like, look, you work at a library and you're like, you know what? We need to have a presentation for the children. What should we do? If your brain goes to rap, just find a bridge and jump off of it right now. There's no purpose in carrying on. Don't go to rap to convey your message of library inclusivity. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Sam says, a rap that's not inappropriate because of appropriation. It's inappropriate because of cringe. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So here we go. Back to it. The problem was my skin color. I was up for a full-time position in the library at the time. I was essentially informed that my candidacy for that position was dependent upon my ability in a matter of days to reinvent a program to which I had devoted months of time. Humiliated and knowing my candidacy for the full-time position was now dead in the water, I moved into my current lower-paying position as student support coordinator in the Department of Residence Life. As it turned out, my experience in the library was just the beginning. In my new position, I was told on multiple occasions that discussing my personal thoughts and feelings about my skin color is a requirement of my job. I endured racially hostile comments and was expected to participate in racially prejudicial behavior as a continued condition of my employment. I endured meetings in which another staff member violently banged his fist on the table chanting, rich white women, in reference to Smith alumni. I listened to my supervisor openly name preferred racial quotas for job openings in our department. I was given supplemental literature in which the world's population was reduced to two categories, dominant group members and subordinated group members, based solely on characteristics like race. Stooge Muffin says, remember when that time Disney had an anthropomorphic mouse to a striptease? Pepperidge Farms remembers. Every day I watched my colleagues manage student conflict through the lens of race, projecting rigid assumptions and stereotypes on students, thereby reducing them to the color of their skin. I am asked to do the same as well as to support a curriculum for students that teaches them to project those same stereotypes and assumptions onto themselves and others. I believe such a curriculum is dehumanizing, prevents authentic connection, and undermines the moral agency of young people who are just beginning to find their way in the world. You know, I know this lady's racist, by the way. Do you want to know how I know this lady's racist and out of touch? She, a white lady, a white lady, wrote a letter of displeasure and resigned. If she was a non-white lady, I think she would have walked in the office and said, "Fuck all y'all," and left, right? Like that's how I know she's a racist. She would have squatted down and dragged her ass along the floor like a dog or whatever. It's the white chicks meme. I'm going to write a letter. No, not a letter. Like, she didn't shit on anybody's desk. She didn't shoot up the place or anything like that. She's out there writing letters left and right. I'm being racist? What? No. I'm learning from the Wayans brothers. Evan Zoomer, yeah, she could have dropped a diss track upon exiting if she wasn't white. Okay, back to this. Let's see. I believe such a curriculum is dehumanizing, prevents authentic connection, and undermines the moral agency of young people who are just beginning to find their way in the world. Although I've spoken to many staff and faculty at the college who are deeply troubled by all this, they're too terrified to speak out about it. This illustrates the deeply hostile and fearful culture that pervades Smith College. Wrongthink will not be tolerated. They will not be tolerated. The last straw came in January 2020, when I attended a mandatory residence life staff retreat focused on racial issues. Oh my God, can you imagine mandatory meetings based on race? Oh, corporate America is garbage. The hired facilitators asked each member of the department to respond to various personal questions about race and racial identity. When it was my turn to respond, I said, I don't feel comfortable talking about that. I was the only person in the room to abstain. Well, like the one boring person at an orgy, right? Later, the facilitators told everyone present that a white person's discomfort at discussing their race is a symptom of white fragility. They said that the white person may seem like they are in distress. The white man may seem like they are in distress, but that is actually a power play. In other words, because they are white, their ungenuine discomfort was framed as an act of aggression. They were shamed and humiliated in front of all their colleagues, as they should have been. I filed an internal complaint about the hostile environment, but throughout that process, over the course of almost 6 months, I felt like my complaint was taken less seriously because of my race. I was told that the civil rights law protections were not created to help people like me. And after I filed my complaint, I started to experience retaliatory behavior, like having important aspects of my job taken away without explanation. Yep. Under the guise of racial progress, Smith College has created a racially hostile environment in which individual acts of discrimination and hostility flourish. In this environment, people's worth as human beings and the degree to which they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect is determined by the color of their skin. It is an environment in which dissenting from the new critical race theory orthodoxy, or even failing to swear fealty to it like some kind of McCarthy-era loyalty oath, is grounds for public humiliation and professional retaliation. I can no longer continue to work in an environment where I am constantly subjected to additional scrutiny because of my skin color. I can no longer work in an environment where I am told publicly that my personal feelings of discomfort under such scrutiny are not legitimate, but instead are a manifestation of white supremacy. Perhaps most importantly, I can no longer work in an environment where I am expected to apply similar race-based stereotype and assumptions to others, and where I am told, when I complain about having to engage in what I believe to be discriminatory practices, that there are, quote, legitimate reasons for asking employees to consider race in order to achieve the college's social justice objectives. What passes for progressive today at Smith and at so many other institutions is regressive. It taps into humanity's worst instincts to break down into warring factions, and I fear this is rapidly leading us to a very twisted place. It terrifies me that others don't seem to see that racial segregation and demonization are wrong and dangerous no matter what its victims look like. Being told that any disagreement or feelings of discomfort somehow upholds white supremacy is not just morally wrong, it is psychologically abusive. Now, again, I have to offer some criticism here. I have to offer some criticism. She didn't notice this until it hit her personally. This isn't a secret. This isn't new. This isn't unique to Smith College. It's happening literally everywhere. I'm curious how she was reacting to seeing this in the world around her before it came home. Before it came to her job. That's what I'm curious about. I don't know, maybe I'll reach out to her. Equally troubling are the many others who understand and know full well how damaging this is, but do not speak out due to fear of professional retaliation, social censure, and loss of their livelihood and reputation. I fear that by the time people see it, or those who see it manage to screw up the moral courage to speak out, it will be too late. I wanted to change things at Smith. I hope that by bringing an internal complaint, I could somehow get the administration to see what their capitulation to critical race orthodoxy was causing real measurable harm. You thought an internal complaint to the people who were implementing these policies would get them to see the error of their ways? You thought that was the thing? They know. Sweetheart, they know what they're doing. The difference is they're fine with it. They know exactly what this all is. When that failed, I hoped that drawing public attention to these problems at Smith would finally awaken the administration to this reality. They know. You don't need to wake them up. They're woke. They're woke. They're already woke. I've come to conclude, however, that the college is so deeply committed to this toxic ideology. The only way for me to escape the racially hostile climate is to resign. It is completely unacceptable that we are now living in a culture in which one must choose between remaining in a racially hostile, psychologically abusive environment or giving up their income. Someone wanted a link to this. Here you go. The link, I just posted the link in the chat. As a proud Smith alum, I know what a critical role this institution has played in shaping my life and the lives of so many women for 150 years. I want to see this institution be the force for good I know it can be. It can't anymore. That era is dead. Sweetie, you're talking about the 90s. The 90s. When movies were good, when movies had guns and violence and tits in it. It's gone. It's dead. The 90s are dead. That's when you went to Smith. You went to Smith when it was okay to look at a woman who was being sexy and go, she's sexy. It's not okay anymore. That's not okay anymore. You went to Smith when it was okay for a man, to be masculine. You went to Smith when it was okay for black people and white people to jokingly rib each other about our differences. You worked at Smith in an era where none of that was acceptable. None of it. It's no longer okay. None of it's okay anymore. That's where you work. 2 decades later, none of that stuff is acceptable anymore. It's not even the same school. I want to see this institution be the force for good I know it can be. It can't. I will not give up fighting against the dangerous pall of orthodoxy that has descended over Smith and so many of our educational institutions. Sweetheart, it's not the educational institutions. It's everywhere. It's in every workplace. It's in every aspect of American culture. These people have pervaded every single institution. No matter how small, no matter how large, no one is immune. They're all susceptible. This was an extremely difficult decision for me and comes at a deep personal cost. I make $45,000 a year, less than a year's tuition for a Smith student. I was offered a settlement in exchange for my silence, but I turned it down. My need to tell the truth and to be the kind of woman Smith taught me to be makes it impossible for me to accept financial security at the expense of remaining silent about something I know is wrong. My children's future, and indeed our collective future as a free nation, depends on people having the courage to stand up to this dangerous and divisive ideology, no matter the cost. Sincerely, Jody Shaw. What is happening is wrong. Any ideology that asks people to judge others based on their skin color is wrong. Any ideology that asks us to reduce ourselves and others to racial stereotypes is wrong. Any ideology that treats dissent as evidence of bigotry is wrong. Any ideology that denies our common humanity is wrong. You should say so, just like Jody Shaw has. If you would like to help support Jody with her legal fees during this time, and I hope you do, here is her GoFundMe. Let's check this out. She has raised $209,872 so far. GoFundMe has released the hold on my account, so that's nice. Let's see. So she has 3,100 donors, 400 shares, 3,100 followers. She's getting donations. So let's read her thing real quick, and then we'll wrap up the show after that. Thank you for your generous support. Please read my update below. Since going public with my own story being trapped in a hostile work environment, I've heard from people, both my own former colleagues and others, who are in similar situations but cannot afford to take action. With any money I raise in excess of $150,000, I would like to help others exercise their rights to be free from a hostile work environment. The purpose of this cause is to raise money for the legal and living mortgage, rent, food, transportation, childcare expenses of myself and others who were forced to leave their jobs due to a hostile work environment and or would like to take legal action but cannot do so due to lack of financial resources. The people who have come to me for support cannot afford to have their identities exposed while still employed. It is precisely this climate of fear that I am seeking to combat with my lawsuit. But revealing the identities of other individuals trapped in hostile work environments would compromise their safety and security. Therefore, any monies over $150,000 will be placed in an escrow account to be dispersed as needed to individuals I know or who have reached out to me who are trapped in hostile workplaces, including the workplace of my own former employer. As February 22nd, together with monies contributed to my PayPal account, we have raised $85,000 for this escrow account alone. This is important as there are many others in the wings who are thinking about preparing to take action, can really use help. Let's keep this going. Here's the original statement. Through an increasing emphasis on trainings and programs grounded in critical social justice, an incredibly dehumanizing ideology that posits a person's immutable characteristics as more important than their individual character, Smith College and other institutions like it have created and nurtured a hostile work environment for staff, students, and faculty. I took a public stand against these dehumanizing policies and practices at Smith College in a series of YouTube videos. My hope was that I could not only improve working conditions for staff at Smith, but for working people everywhere who suffer under similar policies in their workplaces. Smith responded by placing me on leave under investigation. During this time, I was offered a settlement in exchange for my silence. In the end, it was a decision between comfort or freedom. I chose freedom. Since I cannot return to the psychologically abusive environment without further jeopardizing my mental and physical health, I've decided to leave the college. But my fight is not ended. In some ways, it has just begun. Please join me in standing up to a divisive, destructive ideology that threatens to tear our country apart. Help me hold Smith accountable for its actions in a court of law. These two paragraphs are disparate. I chose freedom over comfort because I couldn't return to an emotionally abusive or psychologically abusive environment. That's not comfort. It's not comfort. I wouldn't have advised her to write these two paragraphs like that. I think that is a mislabel. Here's the link to the GoFundMe in the chat if you want to go check it out. That's up to y'all. I don't endorse this GoFundMe. I don't disendorse it. I don't care. But it's here. I didn't even know this existed when I started the story. So, what's her YouTube channel here? She has 5.7 thousand subscribers. This video has 111,000 views. Jody Shaw, Smith College, Big Dig. So she's got a couple videos here. How many? Total. So we got 111,000 views and then 16, 12, 16, 6, 8, 7, 5, 5, 9, 5, 5, 7. So there you go. Smith College, Big Dig, not Big Dick. Goodness, you think this is Kermit talking? Why is she always wearing a beanie? Well, she's like the female Tim Pool, I think. Anyway, so there's that. Invite her on the show. I'll reach out. Interested to see where she's going with all this. Okay. Well, it's late. I'm going to do super chats, then we'll wrap up the show. It's been a blast, as always. Hold on. Invite her and Drexel on. No, we will not. Dabster, I'm not doing Twitch tonight. Not doing Twitch tonight. Sorry. I'm really, really tired. I've been doing this thing lately. I did it last night. I went to sleep at like 9 o'clock. And then the night before, I went to sleep at like 10. And I'm just, no, I didn't go to sleep at 10 the night before. What was it? Friday night, I went to sleep at 10. Saturday, I went to sleep really late because Flash's show went really long. And then yesterday, I went to sleep at 9. And I'm waking up at like 4 in the morning. So, okay. Anonymous says, good to know the guy who prosecuted the Oklahoma City bombing with over 160 dead, including a dozen children that were literally blown up, is able to put January 6th in perspective. When I see pictures of the two events side by side, I can't tell the difference. Yeah, me too. Exact same. Mario Carter 13 says, I don't think we need to ask the balls or no balls question for John Roberts. Then again, they do say a lawyer should only ask questions in court when they already know the answer. Night of Hope says, call it off. Get some rest, buddy. I'll allow it. No. Once the stream is scheduled, the stream is scheduled. Night of Hope says, wonder if his wife is going to come down and be like, chat, how the F do I close this stream? Oh, when I went upstairs? No. Night of Hope says, time for our comedy debut, Justice Chatters. What do you get when you put a butt inside another butt? I don't know, but I bet if it was female, it would still wouldn't fuck Ron. What do you get when you put a butt inside another butt? I don't know, but I bet if it was female, it still wouldn't fuck Ron. And by the way, if you guys did not see, Ron Toye came out and basically admitted that he drank a bunch of semen. So, and look, it's not me saying it. It's Ron saying it. That guy is turbo degenerate. Yashken says, hey, Nick, did you know that YouTube has a QAnon label like the COVID one? It's insane. I wanted your take on it. Really wondering why they would make such a thing in the first place. I don't know, because they're weird. Midnight in Exile, how would we talk figuratively about someone drinking semen? I'm not familiar with the figurative interpretation of that, but I'm willing to learn and expand my horizons. Yeah, I mean, the QAnon thing scares YouTube quite a bit. Oh, excuse me. Try not to yawn. It scares YouTube quite a bit because so many people believe it, and YouTube doesn't know what to do. When they're not able to control people's thoughts, they're terrified. Night of Hope says, what is this? What this fuckwagon is advocating for is slavery, by the way. If you take our money to pay for illegal immigration and welfare babies in cities, and then expect us to keep working at their behest as the kulaks, that's a system of servitude. What the hell? Night of Hope says, but hey, the party of minorities wants to oppress and disenfranchise what they perceive to be a minority. That's about par for the course, isn't it? Authoritarian scumfucks. Night of Hope says, I think they would be sore winners even if it wasn't close just because they believe they have us dead to rights. Now that Google, Amazon, Apple, and the CCP are all on their side and they control the entire government, media, and university, long knives. Mario Carter 13 says, it's understandable why Nick doesn't stand with Bullet. Not all of us can be so great in bed that we get a sex toy and a blender named after us. It's true. I can't compete with that. Night of Hope says, confiscatory taxation, speech censorship, re-education camps, never-ending lockdowns, nationalization of all industry, liquidation of the kulaks, property owners, social credit scores, restriction of movement and association. The DNC is the CCP, folks. Night of Hope says we need to stop framing politics in terms of getting things done. The Democrats did get things done. It hurt everybody involved. Every city and state they run becomes a stagnant wasteland. Private industry and charity gets things done, not autocracy. Silky Johnson says, the AIDS-filled commie that wrote that Guardian article is part of the same type of AIDS-filled commies that think black folks are too stupid to know what the DMV is, to get voter ID, and where the post office is, or use a stamp and the internet. Yeah, exactly. Night of Hope says, another good Family Guy moment is the guy asking Kermit if he knows which way to get to town, and Kermit says, yeah, it's back the way you came. Then cocks a shotgun threateningly. Also, even Jim Henson's communism wasn't enough to save his works now. Lol. Kermit says, Nikki, my N-word riddled rant was taken totally out of context. I was simply using colorful language to explain a hilarious anecdote. Now that they reassign me, I'm doing backroom puppet shows for meth. And trust me, that's not a hand that's up my ass. Night of Hope says, if they have autism, Nick, you know damn well something like 60% of your audience is on the spectrum. Offering merchandise for the cognitively impaired is basically crippled abuse, you monster. You know they can't control their twitchy spending impulses. He also says, the Swiss are a misunderstood and non-Caucasian minority, Nick. The fact that they were on the island shows they don't have a culture of seafaring, map making, or turning a damn rudder. Does that sound like any kind of superior white person you've ever heard of? Hated 7 Days to Die says Ted Cruz was on Louder with Crowder the other day. He said he talked to Trump's admin several times about 230 and big tech, but they did not know how to handle it. He claims he does. What would have stopped him from writing the papers and Trump approves them? I smell BS. You know, whether or not they're willing to actually implement those changes. Hated 7 Days to Die says he also says 230 and big tech can only be restrained by the executive branch at this point due to majority requirements for any changes. All the more reason he should have done it while the Republicans had the White House, is it not? It's not up to him, though. If the Republicans aren't willing to do it, if the Republicans in the White House weren't willing to do it by executive action, it doesn't matter what Ted Cruz wants. Who knows? Who knows what the real story is there? Polio64 says, you keep talking about how Australia and India aren't real while avoiding the fakest country in existence. It's so fake they literally had to name it is real to convince people it legitimately exists. Listen here, Polio. I'm not gonna stand for that bigotry. Australia and India, super fake. Israel, totally real. It even says so in the name. Stop it. Night of Hopeback says, if they're rapping in English, that's just rhyming to music. They're culturally appropriating Shakespeare. Eat a dick, hip hop. All right. The Gray One says, tardy and homoerotic. Jokes aside, hope you've been well, Nick. Please take my shekels for the booze fund. I've been great. Working hard. Tired, but I'm great. Having a great time. Bad Vibe says, Gulf City Cartographer says, Nick, you boomer, I sent you an updated intro. I know I haven't. Man, I'm running back and forth. I will definitely get it updated. Emily C says, idea. We ask other countries to audit their D machines. Let's send the bat signal out to the world. We say, please help us. Please help us. Yes, D being Dominion. Austin Hartless says, chess is my wealth and checkers is my pocket change. Kyra says, roll call for Adamcast newbies. I don't know what that is. But yes, roll call. Redacted says, old man is turning 60, likes Lagavulin, got a recommendation for around 200. If you can find a rarer bottle of Lagavulin, they're probably going to be more than 200. You can get a Lagavulin 12 year though. The 12 year is about 130, 140. And it's a thing of magic. It's cask strength, it's oily, it's fiery, it's really good. So there's that. Otherwise, you're going to have to look outside of the Lagavulin line probably to find something around $200. But that Lagavulin 12 is good stuff. Adam Krigler. Yeah, roll call for Adam Cast newbies. I know, I just don't know what roll call means in YouTube context. I'm the only one here, other than you guys who are here, but I don't think you need to announce yourselves. Adam Krigler is Adam Krigler of Adamcast IRL. I was on his show earlier. It was great. Good times. We had a really good conversation. Had a lot of fun. Samantha Schoner says, "Hi, Nick. It's been a while. I hope you're doing well. Schools are closed for the Emperor's birthday today, so I get to join in for once." Yeah, roll call. Which one of you, who's here? Make sure you tell me in the chat if you're actually here. Gerard Garvin says, "Happy birthday, weirdo." It's not my birthday. What is this? Is this an RGE prank? Physicality Channel says, "If the world was round, then planes would have flown into space instead of hitting the World Trade Center." Checkmate. Yes. Yes. 2% right says, "How long do you think it will be before Thomas is inexplicably found dead with a pillow on his face?" Also, Rip Scalia. Look, man, I would be upping my security. Samantha Schoner says, "As a foreigner living in Japan, I'm not even supposed to leave my house without carrying my ID. I don't think voter ID is asking too much of people." Of course not. Of course not. Mario Carter 13 says, "Kinda sus. Ryder has problems with minority rule." Michael Mason says, "Just diagnosed with narcolepsy. Any pro tips?" Oh, damn. Definitely not awake anymore at this point. Michael Mason. Michael, my personal pro tip is to get a job that lets you make your own schedule, sleep schedule in particular, like I have. There's a large reason that I do what I do. Other than that, if you can, take naps. And other than that, get yourself some Provigil. It's beautiful. But don't drink on Provigil. Oh my God. Oni MCM says, "Isn't direct democracy two wolves and a sheep voting over dinner? A republic is designed to protect the rights of the minority." Yes. The gray one says, a second offering, as I just returned from a second shift at last. Also in Dr. Kermit voice, YouTube, is it time to YouTube, is it time to up the dose of copium by double? CJ says, "Nikki is more of a chocolate person. He stands with Bullet and Drex after all." TK not at post. "Welcome to paralegal status. Much appreciated." Kidda says, "The Atlantic article is a great example of how the left justifies unethical stuff to their base. They claim they're just doing it to make it fair." Yep. F name L name says, "Who is Median and why is he such a fat mutant? Let's get him. He's ruining everything." Mega Lone Wolf 20 says, "Are we sure this isn't the Babylon Bee article? Sounds either delusional or satire." It's the former. Anime Moon says, "Did they just admit that they want fraud? Boo lad." Sheldon Hall, message retracted. "Don't know what you said. Hope it was spicy." Michael Meyer says, "Joseph Goebbels couldn't have written a better propaganda hit piece, lol." Philly Shy says, "The Democrats say that Trump sowed the seeds of hate. Even if that were the case, they keep watering it." Ring Wraither says, "Hey, Nick, did you see Ben Shapiro's interview of Gina Carano?" I saw the first 20 minutes. Also, what do you think of what happened to her doing a movie with Ben's company? I think what happened to her is bogus, of course, but that's the way that mainstream entertainment is going. I think it's good that she's doing a movie with Ben's company because I think independent entertainment is something that's necessary. And places like the Daily Wire, for now, have the resources to do a decent scale production. I think that's going to come down to all of us eventually. We'll all get there. But for now, that we need the intermediary companies between us and like the big Hollywood. So I hope it's good. Sheldon Hall says, "They have been slandering other YouTubers by placing Wikipedia flags saying the video contains Q conspiracy content when they never did." Yes, I've seen that. It's lovely. Serial Foxity says in Kermit voice, Miss Miss Piggy is the Gina Carano of Muppets. She dummy thick. Disgusting. Disgusting. Master Fire Breather says, I had to go through anti-racism training today at my job. Apparently, I need to apologize for my whiteness before I serve coffee. Yes. Can't believe you don't know that. Samantha Schoner says, my family's answering machine message was based on the Mickey Mouse Club song. I've forgotten about that. Thanks for reminding me. You're welcome. Cyril Foxy says, it was geriatric appropriation because Merrick Garland dropped the backbeat. Kofe 2A wannabe Hunan Muhammad says, I don't know if you know this, but the movie Sky Sharks on Amazon has plenty of gratuitous 80s style nudity. It is a shame it's not on Prime. I only need Prime. Bad Vibe says, I don't stand with Bullet because you are what you eat. His name is Bullet. You figure it out. No One Important says, did you see the newest redo of Healer episode? The one with 4 sex scenes in them. Also, thanks for the stream this morning. I have seen all of the redo of Healer episodes to date. It was great. It's a great show. Terrific. Emily Wooten says, I can't decide on just one thing to call out. Hypocrisy of the left has driven me crazy. Love your streams. Do you ever sleep? Lol. Yes, I'm going to sleep in just a minute. It's going to be great. Vienticus Prime says, if direct democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep voting on dinner, a republic is 2 wolves voting on which of the flock should be the next meal. There you go. And then finally, Ooey 99 says, happy birthday, Nick. Thank you very much. All right, guys. I'm going to sleep. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. I may do a daytime stream tomorrow to finish up the hearing of Merrick Garland. I think it starts at 10 a.m. Central Time. So it depends on if I wake up or not. So you'll have to just check and find out. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more of that frog. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we are now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dante to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than me.